All new and live is Erskine along with Robert Chapman, the international forecaster. And why do I read the international forecaster? And why is it so important? Well, a week ago, Robert Chapman wrote, incumbents are on the run. They are on the run. Every incumbent, Republican, Democrat, they're on the run because we are fed up with what they've been doing. 70% of the people want the Federal Reserve audited, and the green Gore, the whole climate change, global warming is history. All of that and much more from the international forecaster. Incumbents on the run, and the bluest of blue states kicked out basically an incumbent when they went with Brown. They said, we're sick and tired of what's going on. What a difference that made. Isn't that right, Mr. Chapman?
It certainly is. And we predicted it. We saw it coming. And I was on for a couple of minutes with Brown, a week ago in one of the programs. And, he's not flawless, and we don't expect him to be. And he's got to be able to do better than the Ted Kennedys of this world to give us a monstrous medical program that is just beyond belief. But anyway, the word is out. That's the third defeat that the Congress, which is Democrat-controlled, and the president, who is a Marxist, that's the third defeat that they've seen here recently, and they're getting the message. So we're going to have no cap and trade.
The defeat of Harry Reid.
Well, Harry Reid's unelectable now, and so isn't Nancy Pelosi. They're gone forever, and many others. And it's our job as American citizens to make sure that very, very few incumbents in both parties come back.
Absolutely.
Serve in Washington again.
No problem with that. One of the things that you mentioned was retirement plans are to fund government debt. What is this about? Are they going to be tapping into our retirement plans now?
What the proposal is, and they're hearing comments for a month. This is the second week. We're finishing tomorrow, and there'll be 2 more weeks after that. And who comments where, I don't know. But anyway, they'll either do one of the 3 things. What they have offered is an annuity. I suppose that annuity would contain government bonds and of one kind or another. Now, they can either do nothing, or they can have a voluntary program, or a mandatory program. If it's a mandatory program, they're stealing your retirement. Now, I think because of what's been going on in the political arena, the reversals that the Democrats and other people in Congress have had in the pieces of legislation and the outpouring and outcrying by Americans, they may and probably should, unless they're suicidal, drop it. And I'm hoping they'll drop it. If they don't, the best they can do is a voluntary program where you say, I have $100,000 in my pension account and I can't access it, and I'd like to spend $20,000 of that buying this government annuity. And that's how it would begin. But I want to promise you something. If they do that, I can guarantee you 2 years from now, maybe 3, it'll become mandatory. And if they do a voluntary program and they will want to go ahead with it, you better get out of your retirement if you can.
Grab for the retirement money is possibly coming. The prime jumbo loans, those 60 days delinquent up to 9.2%, 3 times the number of last year. So the most expensive homes in many parts of the country are in free fall. That's really something when you've got the people with the jumbo loans into free fall, and they're not making any more jumbo loans on them. So the upper-priced homes, they're going to become middle-priced homes very, very quickly all across the country, aren't they?
They are. I was just on Goldseek with Chris Wojak.
Right.
And he lives in North Carolina. And he said that homes have come down, like from $800,000 to $250,000. And this is where the ultra-rich live, up in those mountains. And they had a development come on. They were going to sell at 500,000 these homes, units, whatever you want to call them. And the bottom line is that they went down to 150 to sell them, and that's an insolvency.
Wow. Wow. So another way to look at it, there are some bargains out there to pick up.
No, they will, but you've got to remember, if you're an investor, you may have to wait 20 years to collect. And it's an illiquid market, or it will be in the future once it hits bottom. I wouldn't put my money there.
Okay, illiquid market. Now, we're looking at the stock market taking a precipitous drop this week. We're also looking at a major, not a major, but a minor correction in gold. It's down to about 1,100, and silver. Why did gold and silver go down when the stock market and everything else goes down? Is this totally manipulated, Mr. Chapman?
It certainly is. You can put the blame on your government because they're in there 24/7 manipulating every market that they want to in the world. And until we get rid of the Federal Reserve and we audit them to find out what they're doing and find out what the working group in financial markets, which is really the Treasury and the Fed, are doing in the market, when people find out, they just won't believe it. The skullduggery, the criminality is going to be unbelievable. And they're trying to make a deal to save the Fed. And if it's successful, you're going to have a revolution.
If they're successful to save the Fed, there would be a revolution?
That's right.
So we've got...
I mean, they're strangling the economy.
Absolutely. No question about it. And like we talked before the program, there are a couple of people, if they really want to make a difference, they would get rid of Geithner, they would get rid of Bernanke, they would get rid of Summers. He would get rid of some of those people because they're giving the same money to the same people who caused the problem. And what they need to do is, if a bank's too big to fail, in my opinion, it's too big. Would you comment on that, please?
It's all criminal. It's too big. You're right. They all should be allowed to go under our system of laissez-faire and capitalism.
Sure.
This is a corporatist, fascist country. And until we get rid of this situation where the Fed creates money out of thin air to save its owners and others, it's absolutely insanity.
Now,
and so they should be allowed to go bankrupt.
You're looking in the next year and a half to devaluation and default on the debt, failure of the FDICA, and no recovery in the next year to year and a half. Now, that's a pretty gloomy thing to look at, but if we have a devaluation or we have a default, which devaluation could occur through massive inflation, couldn't it?
Well, that happens automatically, and the higher the inflation rate, the less that currencies are worth, and that probably would significantly reduce the dollar value against other major currencies. USDX is around 78 right now. It could go below the old low of 71.18, perhaps go to 40 or 50. And so, yes, it'll be reflected in that manner, but what you all have to remember, that for the last 10 years, every one of these currencies has gone down against gold hundreds of %.
Let's talk more about that when we get back on Erskine Overnight with Robert Chapman, the international forecaster. We're talking tonight with Robert Chapman, the international forecaster. When I say the international forecaster, he has been so correct for years. He's been giving you the information you're not getting on any of the other services, not on any of the television, not on most of the managed radio programs, but you are getting straight news that he is getting from a number of sources. He's been in this business for years and years and years and knows what he's talking about. And I've made money thanks to Robert Chapman. You can, too, by subscribing to the International Forecaster. Mr. Chapman, we were talking about the devaluation and default on the debt, which you say another year and a half is going to happen in the next year and a half. If this happens, what effect will it have for John Q. Public? What effect will it have for us? Are we going to see things become more expensive? Are we going to see things become illiquid? What is going to happen to somebody like myself who's just living their little life here and trying to get along? What's going to happen?
Well, there's going to be more unemployment. There's going to be more inflation. There's going to be more unsuccessful politics. I think we're going to see in the United States, as a beginner, that there will be a big political change. You've seen it coming over the last three immediate elections, and then Mr. Brown's success in Massachusetts. And incidentally, I was born and brought up in Boston, went to university there.